thank you so much for joining us for today's Appraisal Buzzcast. We'll be discussing evaluations and how appraisers should handle them. I'm Jim Morrison, and today we'll be speaking with Peter Christensen of Christensen Law Firm and Deb Clark of evalcom. We'll be discussing what evaluations are and how appraiser-owned firms should take these on and what they should be aware of before they start. Peter, I'll turn it over to you and get started. Why don't you and Deb introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your history in the industry?
Thanks, Jim. So I am Peter Christensen, and I represent appraisers, valuation firms, work on anything having to do with valuation legal issues. I basically work on it. My law firm's based in Santa Barbara, California, and actually Deb Clark, who you'll hear from next, is one of my clients. And so we're talking about kind of a project that Deb, her company, and I have been working on, which is evaluations. And so Deb?
All right, thanks, Peter. Yeah, so I'm Deb Clark, recently designated MAI. I am a certified general appraiser. I'm the founder and CEO of evalcom. I'm also the owner of a local appraisal firm, appraisal and evaluation firm based in Wyoming called Mountain West Valuations. And yeah, we're pretty excited about this opportunity. We're very happy to be working with Peter and grateful for the chance to share this with all of you today.
All right. Thanks, Deb. And I know that you recently got your MAI, right?
I did.
So
Yep.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So, I've been working with you for a few months now, and I immediately got excited about what you were doing and jumped on board to help you expand what you've been doing. And the reason why I was excited about it is there's so much discussion about evals, so much, evaluations. Many states are like tinkering with their appraiser laws to permit appraisers to perform evaluations here and there. And then you get a lot of appraisers discussing about, okay, does an evaluation have to be an appraisal? Can we do it? The Appraisal Foundation had their kind of presentation about restricted appraisal reports being turned into evals. But you had a completely different approach to it. You're an appraiser-owned appraisal firm. And I'll give the brief summary to people listening. What you do as an appraiser-owned appraisal firm is deliver evaluations to your lending clients that are performed by non-appraisers predominantly. So it's like you've got this other product that you're offering to your lending clients and making a nice amount of revenue off of. And that's what excited me, because this was appraisers taking control of offering evaluations. So tell me about how you got started in your appraisal firm and then how you made that transition to offering evals.
So I started with this firm that trained me and that I ended up getting certified with, called Hilston Appraisals, back in 2010. First time I heard about evaluations was in 2014. So I was a little bit late to the races there, but then I had the opportunity to take over the firm in 2015. And something that just stuck out at me about these evaluations, this idea that there was this product, this valuation product floating around, not just floating around, but actually being written in potentially very large numbers by our that were going to our clients, but that were being written by non-appraisers and that appraisers couldn't write. I mean, that scared me, and I was fairly newly minted, and I thought, well, instead of just kind of taking this lying down, I'm going to see what I can learn about these things and where the opportunity might be. So I started looking into it, and it turned out that while certainly I, as an appraiser in Wyoming, couldn't write these myself, there was nothing actually stopping me as a business owner from hiring people who did. So I started reaching out to our lending clients that were, appraisal lending clients, right? And just asking them, how are you guys getting your evaluations right now? And are you happy with what you're getting? Like, give me the straight goods, right? And we found out that a lot of them were doing them in-house, and a few of them were getting them from these, large evaluation companies that were based out of state. There was nobody in state that was doing them. So I thought, well, maybe what I need to do is kind of establish my own department within my appraisal company of non-appraiser analysts that I could train and that would work kind of with the appraisers in the office, having access to all of our appraisal quality data and expertise, and thinking that if we did this right, then we could set it up so that these analysts would be able to write these evaluations to a higher quality and deliver them to our clients. And so we started doing that in 2018. We changed the name to Mountain West Valuations and relaunched with this new non-appraiser evaluation department. And it just took off. We started with one client back in 2018, and we're now up to 16. The feedback from our clients has been tremendously positive. We've heard all kinds of great testimonials, everything basically speaking to the fact that what they're able to get from our firm is simply better than what they were getting before. And we are able to, since we're hiring non-appraisers, we're able to compete in terms of fees and turn times. So it's really been a model that over the last 2.5, almost 3 years, we've been able to prove works.
So when you did that, when you started doing non-appraiser evals, because in Wyoming, it's doubtful whether an appraiser can do a non-USPAP eval, right? So you're solving that problem by having a non-appraiser analysts in your office do the evals that your client wanted. Did that take away from your appraisal business? Or what did it do to your appraisal business? Like, so, when you talk with appraisers, they're worried about, oh, if evals are out there, they're cannibalizing appraiser business. So what happened to your business?
We were on the lookout for that, and we were watching pretty closely to see if there would be any effects, any kind of cannibalizing that might happen. And interestingly enough, the idea that these evaluations were already being ordered, we didn't see our appraisal business fall off at all. If anything, our appraisal business 2 years later was up, because through the evaluation department, we had improved our marketing, we had improved our systems, we had improved our processes. We were just getting out in front of more lenders, in front of more people. So it was benefiting our appraisal business as well. So yeah, quite the opposite. And that's something that I have said to multiple appraisers that I've talked to. This is business that you're already losing. And it's just it's either staying in-house or it's going to these, generally these larger non-appraiser based companies. So for us to be able to find a way to take a little bit of that back while increasing the quality of these reports really seemed to be a win for everyone.
And when we're talking about evals that your firm was doing, what kinds of properties, transactions are we talking about? Commercial, residential?
Yeah, everything. Commercial, industrial, agriculture, residential. Yeah, I would say the majority of the evaluations that we do are commercial, but we are a commercial appraisal firm. We do commercial and agricultural appraisals here. So that's kind of what our clients have known us for. But our analysts are trained to do residential as well. Mm-hmm. So we do get into that.
And maybe before you rearrange things a little bit, how many appraisers did you have in Mountain West, and how many analysts doing evals did you have in Mountain West?
Well, when we started in 2018, we had 2 full-time appraisers and 2 trainees, and we started with 1 analyst, and now we're up to 6 analysts and 5 appraisers. So
all right, let's take a short break and hear from Jim about something, and then we're going to come back and we'll find out why lenders don't want an eval that's called an appraisal also. So let's explore that after we talk with Jim about a message from Jim.
Thanks, Peter. So we couldn't do these Buzzcasts without our sponsors, and our first sponsor today is ACI. As the provider of innovative appraisal solutions for more than 40 years, ACI is a trusted industry leader. Join the thousands of appraisers in many of the largest appraisal companies that use ACI software in the US and Canada to optimize their business. The ACI One individual plan is available today for $649. It includes forms and rules, sketch software, unlimited location and flood maps, public record data, ACI Open House, and more. For more information, visit aciweb.com. Peter, back to you.
All right. Thanks, Jim. So before the break, I said we were going to get into this issue about what do lenders really want when they're looking for an eval, and some of the maybe challenges there for appraisers. Because I sat in recently, and there's been a lot of discussion from sources like the Appraisal Foundation about that appraisers can do evals under USPAP, but then those evals, because they have an opinion of value, when an appraiser does them, if they're going to comply with USPAP, also need to be an appraisal and need to have all of the elements of an appraisal in them. And so the Appraisal Foundation, for example, has some sample formats where it's a restricted appraisal report that is also an eval. But what I think I've heard you say before, that's not really in practice what lenders want. Is that what you're running into?
Yeah, what we hear back from lenders, the easiest way to explain it is that everything that is an appraisal, everything that's been signed by a certified appraiser carries that label, and it carries those regulations. So whether it's, a full, what used to be called summary appraisal report, whether it's a full appraisal report, restricted appraisal report, or an appraisal report that's in an evaluation format, they are all appraisals, and they all therefore go into the appraisal bucket, and so have to follow the same review processes and all the same regulatory, kind of red tape that has to happen on the lender's side. Additionally, lenders are then still having to face the fact that there simply aren't enough appraisers to meet all of the loan demands that are kind of the reason why we have these non-appraiser evaluations in the first place, right? So that issue is not addressed, and banks are still having to, to just comply with all of the regulations that follow getting a certified appraisal delivered to them. And when it's an evaluation that's been prepared by a non-appraiser, it goes into a completely separate bucket. And it does not have to therefore comply with the same kinds of rules and regulations that appraisals do. In addition to that, since they're being written by non-appraisers, there's kind of no cap on how many people out there can write them. So they can be written a whole lot cheaper and a whole lot faster. And I have just asked, when I've met with lenders, take me through the difference between reviewing an appraisal and then reviewing an evaluation. And what they say about reviewing an appraisal is that it can be, there's generally like a 5 to 8 page long kind of review checklist that they go through. And it takes a couple hours, give or take. An evaluation, on the other hand, for these bankers is 1 page long, and it's done in 10 minutes. Now, say what you will about, how can quality be maintained with such a brief process? But the idea behind these evaluations is that they are intended for low risk transactions. So when banks are facing these low risk loans that need to be, many of them are just being done for refinances, renewals, monitoring purposes, just to kind of keep up with what's happening. They don't want to be forced to have to go through the entire process of engaging an appraiser all the way through the review and underwriting phase of that, when instead they can get an evaluation. Yeah. So that's the feedback that we've been getting.
And I mean, as a lawyer, I can tell you that one of my former jobs was being general counsel of a professional liability insurer for appraisers. And the problem with an eval that is also an appraisal that falls under USPAP is now that eval, because it's an appraisal being performed by an appraiser, is subject to whatever state board's jurisdiction exists in that state. And now the appraiser is opening themselves up to a potential discipline if the appraisal evaluation isn't on par. And then the appraiser also has all of the other obligations that come along with USPAP. And frankly, it makes it easier when you have an eval that is also an appraisal. It is easier to bring a legal claim for a party against that appraiser than it is if it's only an eval. So, I mean, basically what you've just said is lenders really want a true evaluation. Now, certainly there are states, maybe there's 13 or 14 states that now do permit appraisers to perform evals outside of USPAP. So in those states, appraisers do have that option. And a lender would generally take that, but that's not probably the most economic solution for an appraisal firm. Because your solution is to have non-appraiser analysts in your office doing these evaluations, and then you're able to make a better profit out of that. I think I've heard you compared to appraisers being maybe the doctors, and then your analysts who are doing evals being the nurses. Is that a good way to look at it?
Yeah, well, that's something that we've compared it to before. When you look at the different professions that are out there in the various industries, and you compare the appraisal profession to, say, the medical field, where you've got doctors at the top. Well, imagine how well a hospital would function if the only professional in those buildings that were allowed to touch the patients were the doctors. There would just be no way that there's enough doctors to go around. You would have people who were being, unable to be cared for because the doctors just simply couldn't get to them. So the medical field, of course, understands this, and so there's a whole tiered system of professionals within that industry, so that all the way from surgeons to doctors to nurse practitioners and RNs and LPNs and all of that, all the way down to the custodians that keep the place clean. It has to be done that way in order for all of the patients to be cared for. Then you've got the appraisal profession. And the way that it's set up right now is that there's only appraisers. Either you are a certified appraiser and you can write an appraisal report. I suppose you can be a trainee, but those are regulated too. Or you've kind of got nothing else. There's no other tier in this profession unless we were to introduce kind of a new tier, which are these evaluation analysts that are brought in for the less complex assignments, simpler, more straightforward transactions that banks are needing these evals done for, that they're able to learn, to be brought up. Certainly, it's an incredible way for the appraisal industry to benefit by bringing new people into the profession that just has a much lower bar. Like, everybody knows it's hard to be a trainee and it's hard to find someone to take you, and it's hard to get all the way up through the process. Well, the bar for evaluation analysts is much lower. So it really opens up the floodgates to bringing a lot of people in that we can vet through this process. And the cream will rise to the top. And we've seen that here in our own firm.
So I think we need to take another break for Jim and one of his messages. But after Jim's message, then let's talk about how much lenders pay for evals and what the typical fees are. And then let's talk about eval.com and how that kind of helps. The idea behind it is to empower more appraiser-owned firms to be able to sell evals instead of letting these large businesses provide that service. So Jim?
Thanks, Peter. Appraisers, if you've grown frustrated with endlessly pursuing new appraisal work and not reaping any of the benefits, Metro West is here to help. They understand and work to alleviate the pain points commonly felt by appraisers to enable personal and financial growth for their staff. After all, they've been owned and operated by appraisers since the company opened in 1987. Metro West Appraisal is an equal opportunity employer, and they're always looking for certified residential real estate appraisers to join their team. Visit metrowestappr.com/careers or email careers@metrowestappr.com. Peter, back to you.
All right. Thanks, Jim. So, Deb, for a commercial eval, what is the typical fee that a lender pays for a commercial eval in your experience?
Generally, we see they kind of start around $500 to $600 for a commercial evaluation.
And how much time would one of your analysts typically have to spend as far as the work on one of those evals?
We aim for about within 4 hours. Some of them, and that's once they've been doing it for quite a while. When they start, we set it at them being able to complete one a day.
Just compared to typical appraisal fees, but as we talked about, this isn't about replacing appraisals with evals. What we're talking about is all these lenders are getting these evals anyway. The question is, who's delivering them to lenders, right?
Right.
It's like, are appraiser-owned firms going to deliver the evals, or are some other kinds of businesses out there going to deliver the evals, right? So we're not I just want to be clear, we're not talking about replacing appraisals with evals at all. But just for the sake of comparison, what would a typical appraisal fee be for that same type of building if the loan transaction value were above the thresholds and an appraisal was required?
Yeah, well, generally in our market, they're $3,000. It's kind of the average compared to about $500-600 for the average evaluation fee. And I'd like to speak just to that, to what you were just saying as well. I absolutely I am an advocate for our profession. I am not in any way anti-appraisal. I'm very pro-appraisal. The motivation behind is simply a matter of, we recognize that the way that the system is set up right now is that we've got these products, these valuation products that are being provided without appraiser input, without appraisers being able to leverage all of the data and expertise that we've worked so hard for. We're being cut out of this massive part of our industry that is operating really kind of in the dark without us. And so instead, yeah, you're right. This isn't at all about taking away appraisal work. It's about bringing these valuations back into the fold of appraisers in a way that doesn't put their license at risk. And the laws change from state to state. Some laws you can do what we've done, others you can't. Some laws appraisers can write them themselves and take their appraiser hat off. Most of them they can't. So every state is a little bit different. So what it is that we're endeavoring to do is to educate appraisers, help of yourself, of course, key part of that, and to do everything that we can to start to shift these evaluations from happening outside of our profession where we don't get to benefit from them at all, and bring them back in, which is where they really belong.
And the clients seem to like it, your model, right? Because coming from the appraiser firm, so they have this feeling, okay, the doctor's looking after the analyst in a way, something like that. Your clients seem to like it, right?
Yeah, they definitely do. And yeah, and it's not just our clients that have been giving us really great feedback. They've been asking if we offer these in other states. They have sister banks in states that that Mountain West doesn't cover. So I've had to say no. We don't offer them there. But I wasn't surprised by the feedback from lenders. I kind of figured if we give them a better product for the same price, they're going to be pretty happy, right? But what was kind of surprising were these appraisers, like people that I knew, appraisers here in Wyoming, and appraisers that I'd never met before, were starting to call me and ask about what we had done, how we did it. They were wondering if they could do it too. And so it was kind of between the feedback from the lenders and this interest that was coming from other appraisers that we kind of started to think, maybe we're really onto something. Maybe if we can take what we know works here and find a way to scale it through other, small and, mid-size, whatever, appraisal firms across the country, then this is something that we could start to reproduce. And instead of having it just be Mountain West that now gets to benefit from this model, have it be other appraiser firms everywhere that can.
And this is eval.com now that you're talking about.
This is exactly what led us to create eval.com. Yes.
So this is the evolution of from your small commercial appraisal firm in Wyoming servicing a few states. Now this is how you are bringing this model of empowering appraiser-owned appraisal firms to also offer evals to their clients. And again, I just want to emphasize again, not about replacing their appraisals. It's about adding that additional product that their clients are buying from somewhere else already or performing in-house.
Exactly.
And so how does eval.com work?
So eval.com is the platform that brings qualified evaluation analysts, non-appraiser analysts, together with local appraisal firms to gather data and local market knowledge that these non-appraiser evaluation analysts can then utilize to prepare and deliver a higher quality evaluation report to lenders.
Eval.com works with like kind of local appraisal firms to deliver evals that are on forms that you've created, right? So would a local appraisal firm actually need to have another employee to do this or not?
No. So part of what we learned as we started to do our research into what it would take to get appraisal firms to, to get involved like how we got involved, it was crystal clear, that appraisers are very short of one thing, and that's time. So while they were really interested in the idea of this model, when we started talking about, having them hire and train analysts and teach their clients about what they were and start to implement these report templates and things like that, making sure that their E&O coverage, was expanded, and just all of the details, they just said, when things slow down. Right now, we're just too busy. And so we thought, what can we do to take a lot of that legwork out of it for them? And we thought, we've already got the training. We've been doing it for almost 3 years. We've already got the templates. We've already got all of this stuff. We've already got the E&O. We've got all of these things already kind of handled. What we don't have is the local market data and competency and knowledge. That's where we bring these appraisers in. They're brought in on a contractor basis with us. So there's no need for them to be employees or to hire additional people or anything like that. We simply contract with them for the jobs that we get in that market. And in exchange for that, we send them a portion of the fee. And so far, our feedback has been that the appraisers that we've been working with have been pretty excited about the size of the opportunity, and we're hoping to be able to scale it.
Yeah, just to round it out, because you just said size of the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
I know I've heard you say numbers before about more or less the size of the evaluation market in the U.S. I mean, how big is it, if you have a guesstimate?
Yeah, we do. It's a guesstimate. It's really hard to nail down exactly how many, and there have been a number of people that have tried. But the best guess that we have right now is that there are about 100 million real estate loans on the books today, and that's for all different types of real estate. The average loan needs touched about every 3 years. So that's between, mortgages selling on the market, refinances, balloons, monitors, whatever, and of course, new transactions. So if you think then that of 100 million real estate loans being touched every 3 years, that's about 33 million valuations that need to be done every year. How many of those qualify for evaluations versus how many of them would be appraisals? That's where it gets pretty hard for us to really exactly nail it down. But speaking with bankers and having them kind of estimate, how many evals would you say that you are ordering compared to appraisals? What would the general median of what we hear is 4 to 1. So this would suggest that 33 million valuations, about 26 million of them are qualifying for evals every year. Now, whether those are actually being, having evals done, we can't really say, but the concept here is that the size of the opportunity is really big. And at this point, the way that things stand, appraisers are missing out on 95% of it.
And that's my fear, is that appraisers will continue to let this opportunity, this side of the business, slip by their appraiser-owned firms. And just in the last 2-3 years, we've seen the expansion of the use of evals by lenders because those appraisal thresholds have increased to $500,000 for commercial from $250,000 and $400,000 for residential. And so I'm afraid that appraisers will continue, unless they do things like you're doing, they'll continue to let this opportunity slip by them. So I think that's all the time we have. There are a lot of things that I know we could talk about because this is something that we've talked about for hours, but a lot of fine details. So I think appraisers could get more information about evals from your website, evalcom. And I know you have other information you can share, such as the legality of performing evals in different states. I think that's something that you're able to share with appraisers. So that's all I have for you, Deb. Anything else from you?
Well, yeah, I think we're always happy to to answer questions that people have. If you'd like to just shoot us an email at info@eval.com, we'll do our best to get back to you as quickly as we can. This is certainly a convoluted and not at all clear part of our industry. So we're doing our best to help people kind of navigate with the tools that we have, which you've helped us put together. And yeah, we just want to see appraisers be able to take this part of the industry back. It belongs with us. These are real estate valuations. Nobody knows this stuff better than we do. So how can we bring it back in a way that's going to be easy and compliant and lucrative?
Yeah.
And we do believe that there are ways for that to be accomplished. So we hope that appraisers will come at this with an open mind and see this part of our industry as an opportunity instead of as a threat, because evaluations are not going away. That's simply a fact. And the harder we try to fight them, the more likely it's going to be that the lending industries will just continue to find new ways around us. We are optimistic for the future. We believe that we're really on to something, and we look forward to working with appraisers everywhere to help make this better.
Thanks, Deb.
And I agree with you that appraisers need to take back this part of the industry. So I really appreciate your time, and thank you, everyone. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the next Buzzcast.
Thank you so much, Jim. Thanks, Peter.
In uncertain times, you need a certain partner. You don't have to sacrifice top-notch coverage for an affordable premium. Intercorp has all of the options and is sure to have just the right one to fit your specific needs. They provide the appraisal profession with competitive, best-in-class E&O coverage solutions nationwide. Having served the insurance needs of the industry for over 25 years, Intercorp understands the risks that you face every day. Whether you're an individual appraiser, appraisal firm, residential, commercial, or an AMC, visit intercorpinc.net to get a competitive quote today.